Isabella and I were in love for 4 years. We got married right after graduating from college. At the wedding, she got me drunk. She framed me and personally took the incriminating photos of me. The next day, she asked for a divorce, and I left the house with nothing. On the third day, the Johnsons kicked me out, and someone beat me to death. After I died, my wife showed up at my grave with the fake young master. Foolish big brother, I had Isabella undercover by your side for 4 years, and you didn't even know. You died without injustice. At my rebirth wedding, I refused to marry Isabella, and instead turned to marry the aloof campus beauty. Isabella, however, knelt and begged me for forgiveness. Mr. Ethan, are you willing to marry Miss Isabella? Regardless of, I cut the host off by raising my hand before he finished speaking. I won't. She doesn't deserve my love. Isabella's face went pale. She grabbed my hand and begged. Ethan, can't we talk about this after our wedding is over? The host was at a loss for words and looked toward my parents. My parents snorted coldly, both pairs of eyes fixed tightly on me. Mr. Williams and Mrs. Williams hurried to soothe the guests on the bride's side, saying, "This is just a misunderstanding." I knew they wouldn't give up on the Johnson family's big tree. The youngest son of the Williams family, Jacob, glared at me and launched into a tirade. Ethan, being able to marry my sister is a blessing you earned in a past life. If you don't want to marry her now, what are you doing to the Williams family? Huh, do you have someone else on the side? You scumbag. The fake young master Lucas also stepped forward, his tone full of mockery. Big brother, can you please stop making such a scene? All of my Johnson family's relatives and friends are here. If you keep this up, Mom and Dad will lose face. Hearing this, Mom and Dad immediately stood up, glanced at Lucas, and then went to the adjacent private room. I hurriedly followed after them, but Lucas blocked me. Get lost. We'll settle this with you later. I punched him in the eye and walked into the private room without looking back. My parents made me kneel on the ground. Ethan, don't you have anything to say to us? What does this sudden decision not to marry Isabella mean? I was silent. In my previous life, Isabella conspired to photograph my affair. Isabella forced me to divorce, and they never objected. They even agreed to let me leave with nothing. On the third day, they personally drove me out of the Johnson house. I know they still love me, but after adopting Lucas, a large part of their love went to the fake young master. I don't know if they'll still support me after I tell them the truth. After all, when I died back then, no one from the Johnson family came to collect my body. It was the aloof school beauty I had sponsored who did. What I didn't know was that the aloof school beauty had liked me for many years as well. Back then, when the aloof school beauty wanted to confess to me, the fake young master Lucas discovered it. He used the sponsorship funds to threaten her to stay away from me, and even arrange for Isabella to get close to me. Isabella and I happened to be seen by the school beauty while on a date. Her heart ached. She buried her feelings, yet still secretly kept an eye on me. When we broke up, or after graduation, she planned to leave this heartbroken city for good. The fake young master had engineered everything. I watched helplessly as I jumped headfirst into the pit. My fiancée was gone. My parents were gone too. The entire Johnson group was gone. But that fake young master still wasn't satisfied. After having me killed, he went to my parents and slandered me, saying I died out of hatred and revenge against society. My reputation was ruined. He is now the nominal heir of the Johnson family. If they cried a little, my parents would be willing to give their hearts to him. So after I was beaten to death, not a single one of my own father or mother came out to claim my body. Just when I thought I had been buried in the wilderness, the aloof campus beauty came alone to collect my body. Shovel after shovel, she buried me beneath a sea of flowers. She set up a tombstone for me and kept watch over my grave for 3 days. Ethan, go in peace. I'll avenge you someday. After the campus beauty left, Lucas led Isabella over. Big silly brother, I had Isabella undercover by your side for 4 years, and you didn't even know. Your death was not in vain. Ethan, don't blame me either, who told me I was carrying Lucas's child. Open your eyes wider in your next life. Don't mistake the wrong person. My parents looked at me in a daze, their expressions a bit displeased. Mom comforted me. "Ethan, if you have any difficulties, just say them." I hesitated, then heaved a sigh and said, "Isabella is pregnant, and it's my brother Lucas's child. He was afraid that if you found out you would kick him out of the Johnson family, so he begged me to help him this once. This time, I'm going to ruin him completely." Mom and Dad were momentarily thrown into confusion. I took the opportunity to suggest two solutions. One was to have Lucas marry Isabella for the time being. The second was that I would change my marriage partner. Mom immediately took my side. "Honey, I think the second plan is good. The current Isabella is simply not worthy of our son Ethan." After she finished speaking, she had already taken out her phone to pick a marriage candidate for me. After all, the wedding guests were still waiting at the venue. "Wife, we'll talk about this when we get back." There was no warmth in Dad's eyes. He was probably assessing the situation, and if things didn't go well, he'd still want me to marry Isabella. On the way back, I kept thinking of ways. Just after I returned to the wedding venue, my brother-in-law came up to me. "Look at you. So ridiculous. How could the Johnson family have a cowardly young master like you? My sister is kind and has decided to give you another chance. You'd better not waste it. You should learn more from your brother Lucas and stop thinking about all sorts of nonsense." Last life, when I heard Jacob say these words, I put up with it because he was Isabella's brother. Now I realize he must have been instructed by someone to say that, deliberately using Jacob's mouth to smear me. The Williams family currently depends on the Johnsons to survive. He himself wouldn't have the guts to do this. The one who had given the instruction was a member of the Johnson family, Lucas. I hadn't intended to make a move on my wedding day, but the dog had bitten my face. If I didn't teach him a lesson, every dog would pounce and bite you in the future. I no longer suppressed my anger. I slapped him across the face, venting all the grievances and fury I'd held in recently. Jacob clutched his face, squatting on the ground in agony. He suddenly pointed toward the woman who had stood up in the distance, his tone full of doubt. "Are you still hung up on that poor schoolbelle? Your parents would never agree to let her into the Johnson family." My mind stirred as I looked in the direction of his gaze. A familiar yet strange face came into view, anxiously looking this way, her complexion a little pale. When she saw me, she turned to leave. If not the aloof campus belle Sophia Taylor, then who else? I couldn't care about Jacob. I slipped off my dress shoes and ran after her. "Sophia, wait a moment." She stopped in her tracks. Seeing my bare feet, her lips moved slightly. Unlike Isabella, this aloof school beauty had hardly ever smiled. It was just that when the Johnson group went to the university to pick scholarship students back then, she had something and didn't make it. I helped her, and for the first time she smiled at me. I was happy about it for a whole day, but the next day she remained cold when she saw me, and I dared not get closer to her. Then Isabella walked into my sight and drew me in with her graceful figure. Sophia seemed very afraid of Jacob and hid behind me. I patted her shoulder to signal that she was fine. Sophia turned her face and revealed a face that could topple kingdoms and cities. Compared to Isabella, one was a celestial fairy from the ninth heaven, the other a worldly enchantress. I really wanted to give myself a couple of knocks on the head. Choosing Isabella over Sophia, what a blind choice. Sophia's red lips parted slightly. "Classmate Ethan, what did you call me for?" Her personality was cool and reserved. She didn't like talking much with others. That she could stop and wait for me was more out of instinct than anything else. "Sophia can come, but she's my chance." I stepped forward and grabbed one of her hands, whispering a plea. "Sophia, please help me. I still need a bride here. If you can do me this favor, I will definitely repay you." Her brows furrowed slightly, then relaxed. "There's hope." My voice grew even more pitiful. I wrapped my arms around her thighs, almost in tears. "Sophia, if you agree to do me this favor, I can grant you 3 conditions. I'd brave fire and sword for you." To make it more believable, I secretly pinched my thigh hard, the pain making me tremble all over. With her meddlesome nature, I wasn't sure whether she'd feel any sympathy. My eyes met hers, but I had little confidence. In college, quite a few people pursued Sophia. At least more than half the guys had dreamed about her. If her family hadn't been poor, she wouldn't have come to York University to study. At the time, hadn't I confessed to her 3 times? But each time I was rejected, and I lost heart. Then Isabella showed up and took advantage of my heartbreak. After that, Sophia grew even colder and earned the title of the aloof campus beauty. Sophia's gaze made my skin crawl. I forced myself to hold back the urge to blurt out the truth. Compared to ruthless Isabella, marrying the aloof campus beauty Sophia at least wouldn't involve being schemed against. Besides, in a last life, Sophia helped collect my body and tend my grave. If that was because of the support I gave her, she wouldn't refuse me this time either. I was about to continue when I heard Sophia speak. I can agree, but after this is over, you can't stop me from leaving. I nodded hard, almost bowing to her 3 times. She reached out and helped me up. Through our clothes, I could feel the gentle touch and the trembling. And the 3 conditions you mentioned, you must obey them unconditionally. The cool school beauty raised her hand, and I quickly took hers and led her to my parents. I heard Jacob's angry curses and Isabella's stomping behind me. Seeing that I didn't react, Isabella hurriedly hurried after me. "Husband, what did I do wrong? I apologize. Please don't leave me, okay?" I didn't even turn my head. You wanted to be the fall guy? No way. Miss Isabella, first, we never married. Second, we never registered our marriage. Legally speaking, there is no relationship between us. Luckily, I was reborn in time. Otherwise, even if I wanted to erase that relationship, it would have been very troublesome. But I love you. You know, we're about to get married. Isabella hurriedly blocked me. She pointed at Sophia and shouted, "So it was you who seduced my husband, right? You always look innocent, but behind my back you do such filthy things." Just as I was about to help Sophia explain, she pulled me behind her, turned to stare at Isabella, and her presence completely overwhelmed her. "Isabella, you know in your own heart what wrong you've done, don't you? Otherwise, why do you think Ethan wouldn't marry you?" My parents were stunned, and even I wondered, could Isabella's pregnancy be something she knew about too? Mom looked at Sophia, and the more she looked, the more she liked her. I hurriedly introduced Sophia. She gave me a thumbs up. "Sophia is a good girl. She looks like a proper young lady." "Thank you." Sophia's voice remained cold. Seeing Mom's approval made me happy, but Dad said to her, "What does looking good matter? To me, Isabella is just as good." Hearing that, I immediately felt uneasy. I turned and saw Lucas give me a sinister smile, his face full of smugness. It seems the situation is even worse than I thought. Isabella was not alone. At the very least, Lucas and her father's hearts were with her. Are we even going to go through with this marriage? You've left so many of us waiting like this. Even the Johnsons owe us all an explanation. Voices from the guests sounded beside them. The wedding will proceed as planned. Dad's hammer blow settled it. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. I took Sophia's hand and walked toward the stage, shouts coming from behind us. "Husband, Dad was talking about me. You unfilial wretch. You unfilial wretch. You insist on driving me to my death. Ethan, if you dare step onto the stage, don't ever expect to see my sister again." Their words pierced Sophia's heart like needles. She abruptly stopped and looked at me. "Ethan, are you afraid?" I shook my head and said firmly, "I'm not afraid at all with you by my side." Under my stunned gaze, she took my hand and strode toward the stage. "Mr. Ethan, the marriage between you and Miss Isabella?" The host hesitated. I took a deep breath, led Sophia to the center of the stage, and loudly declared it to all our friends and family. I apologize for taking everyone's time. The wedding between Miss Isabella and me is suspended. Just now, I discovered that Miss Isabella was being forced to marry me. She already has someone she loves. The childhood friend who has always loved me confessed her feelings, and I have loved her for many years as well, always loving but never attaining. I would like to ask everyone to give their blessings to this hard-won relationship. Thank you all. I took Sophia's hand and bowed to everyone present 3 times. Lovers finally united in marriage. A burst of warm applause erupted around us. Ethan, what gives you the right to marry someone else? Isabella was crouched on the ground, her eyes fixed on the stage, her wedding dress covered in dust. You don't deserve it. Isabella stormed off in anger, with Lucas and Jacob following closely behind. The wedding continued. When it came to the toasting segment, I saw Isabella had already changed into a fresh outfit and taken her seat, her face showing not a trace of sorrow. This put me on high alert. Isabella had been greatly humiliated today. She certainly wouldn't let it go quietly. I leaned close to Sophia's ear and said a few words, then walked over toward Isabella. Toast from Sophia and me to everyone. Isabella suddenly stood up, quickly poured out her beer, filled a glass with Baijiu, and said loudly, "What's the point of drinking beer? If you're going to drink, drink Baijiu." If it were a normal situation, I would have already thrown the wine in her face, but I couldn't do that now. Facing Isabella, I couldn't be sure whether the drink had been drugged. Just as I was about to drink, Sophia snatched my glass and spoke in a cold, clear voice. "My husband drank too much today, so I'll drink this cup for him." I was about to stop when I saw a pair of icy eyes looking over. The hand I had extended drew back. Sophia finished drinking and then collapsed, very much like I did in my previous life. Before falling to the ground, she tightly wrapped her arms around me and bit my arm hard with her lips. I carried her away and headed out of the hotel. I knew there was another scene waiting for me outside. If I didn't go, they couldn't start. In the next moment, two people came rushing around the corner. One held a rag, the other a length of cotton rope. No need to think they were sent by Isabella. But before the two of them could act, several police officers surrounded them from all sides, and a few were arrested on the spot. Following my tip-off, they also caught a woman who had drunk 200 gin in the hotel room. Also sharing a room with the drunk woman were Isabella and Lucas. Little did they know, their actions had long been arranged by me in clear detail. The three of them were all taken to the police station for questioning. As for me, I took Sophia to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, Sophia was lying across me completely. The smell of alcohol hit my nose, and I couldn't help but push her away a little. "Are you disgusted with me?" Sophia's face grew colder. If that were what she meant, and I had taken advantage of her, she'd beat me to death when she woke up. Before I could explain, a body pressed against me, two arms thrown around me. "Who am I? Where am I?" I flushed, gritted my teeth, and answered, "Sophia. Now we're going to hospital." Hearing hospital, Sophia trembled even more. She clutched my tie tightly. "I won't go to the hospital. I'm afraid of needles, needles." I found it kind of amusing. The chilly school beauty was actually afraid of injections. I was just exhausted. After watching the last bottle of fluid finish infusing, I lay down on the bed and fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. I saw Sophia leaning against the windowsill reading a magazine, radiant and striking. She glanced at me when she heard the movement, then returned to her cold demeanor. "Miss Sophia, the poison in your body has been completely cleared. We'll do another check today, and if everything's fine, you can be discharged." The doctor entered the ward with an inexplicable smile on his face. "Thank you, doctor." I took Sophia for a checkup, then went home to pay my respects to my in-laws. Mom was very happy and gave Sophia a big red envelope. Dad wasn't home. I heard he had gone to the police station early in the morning. As Sophia and I were about to leave, we ran into Lucas and Isabella, who had just returned. The two of them looked disheveled. When they saw me, their expressions changed immediately. Lucas scanned me, his gaze venomous. What he was thinking I couldn't tell. Isabella's expression was complicated. She stared at me and said, "You knew we were going to set you up, so you deliberately called the police and waited for us to take the bait." I have to admit, Isabella was as clever as she had been in my previous life. No wonder she ended up in Lucas's arms. He must have made a lot of promises. I took Sophia's hand and spoke slowly. "Miss Isabella must be joking. That was a routine police inspection. It has nothing to do with me." Lucas swallowed hard, clearly couldn't tolerate it. Enraged, he charged at me, trying to beat me with fists and kicks. Instead, Isabella watched coldly from the sidelines and did not step forward this time. Ethan, be sensible and apologize to Lucas right away. Otherwise, it's unlucky to ruin your face on your wedding day. At that, I took out my phone to record and snorted coldly. Lucas hit me. Do you want to go in one more time? Lucas withdrew his fist 1 inch from my cheek and angrily dragged Isabella away. I led Sophia back to the new room, ready to tidy it up. Passing by the Civil Affairs Bureau, Sophia took me inside to get our marriage certificate. Coming out, I looked at the marriage certificate in my hand and felt it was so unreal. Sophia, this aloof, superior school beauty, just registered and married me like that. And she did it willingly. The marital home is a small villa, all decorated according to Isabella's tastes. I asked her how many months we would live here while we remodel it. Sophia shook her head and retorted, "Did money blow into your house on a gust of wind? Are you bored or something?" I was taken aback, then immediately overjoyed. So she could talk. She just said a little harshly, "After tidying the house, we prepared to go to the supermarket to buy some things." Passing by the bridal shop, I unexpectedly ran straight into Isabella and Lucas, who had come to choose a wedding dress. There was some impatience in Lucas's words. "Big brother, what a coincidence." Since being hauled off from the hotel by the police, he had been keeping a low profile. It was truly unavoidable that we bumped into each other this time. But I'm not going to let this opportunity go. I hurried forward, grabbed his arm, and said, "Little brother, are you getting married?" Why the rush? Want Big Brother to help. Anger surged through him, his eyes swollen and bloodshot. He miscalculated. Not only did he fail to take me into account, he also ruined his own reputation. The family also knew Isabella was already carrying his child and told him to marry within 3 days. The Johnsons were already showing signs of quietly giving up on him, which he would not allow. When we returned home, we were both covered in sweat. Sophia went to take a shower and said halfway through that she hadn't brought her underwear, asking me to fetch it for her. When I brought it over, she pulled me into the bathroom in an instant. When I woke up again, she was lying in front of me. Her eyes were calm, and her tone unusually gentle. "Ethan, I'm leaving." I asked in confusion why. She continued, "Now is not the time. When the moment comes, you'll know." I nodded and didn't stop her. I took out all the money I had on me and solemnly handed it to her. "Remember to call me when you need help." Seeing her face flush, I couldn't help but kiss her. This time, her eyes were even redder, and she cooperated with me all the more. "Husband, I won't be gone for long. Take care of yourself and our mom." Sophia left. I personally saw her off at the airport. I returned to the Johnson family villa and found Mom. I handed over the pastry Sophia had made. "Mom, try this." Sophia made this osmanthus cake with her own hands. Mom picked up the osmanthus cake and tasted it, her face full of smiles. "This osmanthus cake smells good. It should taste even better. By the way, what about Sophia? Why didn't she come with you?" I was about to answer when a voice came from outside the door. "Mom, are you having pastry? I happened to go to the seafood house and bought seafood congee and seafood buns for you to try." Before Mom could speak, she had already poured out a bowl of congee and handed it to her. Mom was cold in tone, but she still took it. I suddenly stopped her. I remembered what Sophia had said before she left. I glanced at Mom and said, "Mom, it's perfect timing. I haven't had that restaurant's seafood porridge in ages. You can leave it for me." Mom looked at me indulgently and nodded. Isabella turned and left in anger, but I saw a look of disappointment on her face. "This porridge tastes a bit off," I blurted out. Mom was startled and hurriedly asked, "Son, did you notice something?" I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, it was at this same time that Mom had the same problem, exactly like now. I think a slow-acting poison was added to it. The seafood congee had been overturned on the floor, splashing part of it onto me. A chill of fear involuntarily crept into my heart. No wonder when I was driven out of the house, Mom remained indifferent. At that time, the situation was reversed. What I brought then was seafood porridge. She must have been ill then, or she thought I had poisoned it. Mom was about to find someone to test it, but I shook my head and went to fetch a dozen or so ants. After eating the seafood porridge, the ants immediately fell over on the ground and didn't move. I looked at Mom. She sighed and said, "It's all for the Johnson Group shares. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come to this." I asked, puzzled, "Haven't the Johnson Group shares always been with Dad?" Mom shook her head and told me about the origins of the Johnson Group. It turned out the Johnson Group originated from the Taylor Group. Mom had built it with her own hands, and later, when she no longer wanted to manage it, she transferred the rights to Dad. And she still holds 30% of the company's shares. Recently, she wanted to transfer the shares to me. Then the matter became clear. Just then, the door suddenly opened. Dad walked in quickly, his face wearing a worried expression. I leaned back and held my mom's hand. No matter what, Dad's heart was largely not with me. He sized me up from head to toe, his eyes full of anger, which left me very puzzled. "Ethan, you unfilial son, just over a small matter you sent your own brother to the police station. Have you no conscience?" I leaned against my mother's chest, watching him warily. I remembered how cold he was in my previous life, exactly the same as now. I don't think I did anything wrong. If he wants to frame me, then he should be prepared to bear the consequences. He snapped, his temper flaring. "Oh yeah? Now you dare talk back? You only get called young Master Johnson because you ride on your old man's coattails. You've really started to think highly of yourself, haven't you? Besides, look at what you married, some frosty campus belle. She's practically an ice block." I was about to strike back, but Mom grabbed my hand. She looked at him and shot back. "What are you crazy about? Did our son offend you? For the sake of an adopted son, why are you being so harsh to your own biological son? Could that adopted son be your secret child from an affair?" He rushed over and slapped me, then kicked me hard to the ground, scolding as he did. "Are you the one gossiping in front of your mother? Look at how she spoiled you. Calling off the wedding right at the ceremony. You're ruining the Johnson family's reputation." I'd already dodged quickly, but the pain in my chest almost made me suffocate. I hurriedly begged my mother for help. "Mom, take me to the hospital right now." Slap. Mom sprang up, slapped Dad, and glared at him with eyes full of fury. "If anything happens to our son, we will get a divorce." Dad covered his face and shouted angrily, "I was just teaching him a lesson. If you keep spoiling him like this, the Johnson family will be drained by him sooner or later. He's not half as sensible as Lucas." Those words made me give up the last shred of trust one had in him. When I looked up at him again, he looked like a stranger. A man who only cares about his adopted son like that doesn't deserve my love. Mom looked very ill-tempered. "You used to be his dad, but ever since you adopted Lucas, it's like you've become a different person. Could it be that I was right all along? That Lucas is the child you had with that slut from outside?" Dad looked a little flustered. "What are you talking about? How would he be my biological son? We personally brought him back from the orphanage." I felt Mom was right. Otherwise, he wouldn't react so strongly. Thinking back on the unfair treatment I suffered in my past life, it was obvious I was the fake young master. Mom sneered, "Is or isn't? We'll do a DNA test, and we'll know. If I'm wrong, Ethan and I will kneel and apologize to you. What will the truth be?" Hearing Mom's words, Dad's face darkened. He turned and walked away, leaving behind one sentence before he left. "Unreasonable." He paused at the door, then turned back and said to Mom, "Lucas is graduating right now. I'll have him join Johnson Group to help me." Mom tightened her grip on my hand. After Dad left, Mom personally called the driver and sent me to the hospital. On the way, she didn't say anything, but I could tell she was full of worries, so I hurried to reassure her. "Mom, I'll stay with you forever." Mom grinned, a little tender. "What's up with you? Last time it was your wife, now it's you." I gave an awkward smile, but didn't explain. Luckily, the doctor didn't ask much. After the examination, my rib was found to be fractured and I needed to be hospitalized for a month. Over the following days, I stayed in the hospital to recuperate, and I didn't even attend Lucas's wedding. Lucas and Isabella visited once, and then they never came again. I heard he became the chairman's assistant. My last bit of hope in Dad also disappeared. Meanwhile, Mom didn't sit idle either. She took Lucas's and Dad's hair and sent them for testing. As expected, the probability that they were biologically related was over 99%. Because of this, Mom had a falling out with Dad. Sure enough, in the previous life, Dad's favoritism toward Lucas had a reason. He probably valued that illegitimate son more. I shouldn't have imagined receiving fatherly love, that he could still cherish past feelings. During the recovery period, Sophia called every day. I wanted to ask her what she had been doing lately. She kept changing the subject, and in the end, fell silent. But there was one thing I could see on her face, her love for me. After I recovered from my injuries, Mom notified me. Tomorrow you'll report to Johnson Group. The position is the same as Lucas's. Dear Jobwell, our shareholding isn't any less than your father's. Bring a few more shareholders over, and we'll take the company back in one move. Hearing Mom's command, I thought of my two archenemies, Dad and Lucas. I was somewhat alone and outnumbered, but I gritted my teeth. I didn't want the fake young master to smoothly take over the Johnson family's business. Don't worry, Mom. I'll fight them both. Mom rubbed my cheek and praised me, saying, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Even if you lose, it's okay. The savings Mom set aside are enough to ensure you and Sophia won't want for anything for the rest of your lives. Thinking that Mom had guaranteed things, wouldn't that make it less stressful for me to get things done? But on my first day at the company, someone decided to give me a warning. Lucas came with Isabella and blocked my way at the door. He didn't notice that Isabella's expression was very wrong. Although Isabella married Lucas, she still went to work at Johnson Group. But because of what happened at the wedding, people talked about her, and she was too ashamed to lift her head. Seeing us confronting each other in the aisle, Dad, who had come out of his office, looked very unhappy. He said expressionlessly, what are you all standing here for? The company hired you to work, not to stand on duty. Lucas, come in with me. When Dad spoke, neither Lucas nor I dared to say anything. But just before leaving, Lucas shot me a triumphant look, a hint of provocation in his eyes. Isabella spoke up in time. Ethan, he's your younger brother. You should be a bit more lenient with him. Really, I glanced at Isabella without showing it and turned to leave. It was obvious Mom had spoken to someone. The HR director processed my onboarding as quickly as possible, and I still got a private office. I had just finished the paperwork when my mom called to ask how my first day at work was going. Don't worry, Mom. It's not bad for now. If anything comes up, I'll definitely ask you for help. After saying that, I glanced once at the door, then quickly looked away. If you can do it, do it. Don't drag yourself into troubled waters. After Mom reminded me a few more times, she hung up. I heard a knock and called out, come in. A young woman of about 20 entered, her hands empty. A chill went through me. They completely stopped pretending. They wanted to isolate me. They wouldn't even have the secretary bring project files for me to see, try to drive me away. If I couldn't get the new projects, then I'd look over some old ones first. I called the archives to request the materials. Soon Xiaoshuang brought over a pile of project files. I was about to look through them when I was notified to go to the meeting room for a meeting. When I arrived, the conference room was filled everywhere except for my seat. Dad sat firmly in the chairman's spot, casting a cold glance this way. You're late to a meeting, no sense of time at all. Do you think everyone else's time is worthless? I took a deep breath, didn't argue, and bowed to apologize. Sorry, I'm late. I just received an urgent call and had to deal with it. I hope everyone understands. Everyone nodded, but Lucas, who had a grudge against me, had no intention of letting me off. Lucas snorted and spoke coldly. By the urgent matter you mentioned, you don't mean you're still trying to find business opportunities among those abandoned projects from the past, do you? Everyone's expressions turned contemptuous as they looked at Lucas, feeling that what he said made a lot of sense. I ignored Lucas. The more you speak, the more flaws you reveal. Having already offended Lucas and his son, I really couldn't let the other directors look down on me any further. I glared at Lucas and, in a voice just loud enough for everyone to hear, said, I didn't know my younger brother was so well aware of my actions, but the meeting is more important right now. I don't want to use my personal matters to take up everyone's time. The stone he threw came back to hit his own foot, Lucas's face turned sullen. He put on a pitiful look and glanced at Dad. Dad was a bit disappointed by his little tricks, but still spoke up to defend him a few words. Then he looked at me. Don't worry about those past, trivial matters. Doing well on the current project is what matters. If this project can be completed, Johnson Group won't have to worry about living for the next few years. I didn't argue, just nodded in agreement. Neither humble nor arrogant. In an instant, he completely suppressed Lucas. Lucas plugged in a USB drive and began reporting on the new project. Our Earthworm Logistics System project relies on existing facilities to establish underground logistics distribution trunk lines, revitalizing the entire city's logistics distribution network. Once we can successfully implement it in Mountain View City, it can be quickly replicated elsewhere and then rolled out nationwide. According to our calculations, our revenue should be at least $1 billion then. With some effort, $100 billion is not impossible. Seeing the many directors' shocked expressions, Lucas looked at me smugly, his face full of boastfulness. But not everyone present was a fool. With such a large return, the investment was also large, and the risk borne couldn't be low. Someone raised an objection, and quickly more than half of the people supported it. After all, earning a little less is one thing, but if you actually take a loss, you'll be left without even your underwear. Lucas came to his senses and hurriedly looked at Chairman David, who quickly began to explain. Take a gamble, and your bicycle turns into a motorcycle. Lucas isn't entirely wrong. Profit and risk go hand in hand. Think it over carefully. Once we close this deal, each of your values will increase at least tenfold. By then, my Johnson enterprise will be able to expand nationwide, even worldwide, and everyone here will be the primary contributors. But this time, few people supported him. At this point, I directly raised my hand in opposition. He didn't leave them any face at all. Lucas shouted anxiously there. Ethan, on what grounds do you oppose this? I give you an assistant to the chairman, and you really think you can take part in the vote? Chairman David slapped the table and said, Security, throw out the unrelated person, Ethan. As the security guards grabbed me and were about to toss me out, I shouted, The Earthworm Logistics System project is a castle in the air. The current technology makes it impossible to realize. Directors, think carefully. Do you expect pies to fall from the sky? Don't be like a monkey dragging a watermelon and dropping the corn. You'll end up with nothing. In the end, I was still driven out of the company. I hurriedly contacted my mother and explained the stakes involved. But my mother showed no anxiety. Instead, she advised me not to act rashly. The project proposal still passed, and Lucas and his son gave up enormous benefits. But compared to what they received, those benefits were nothing. Lucas even ordered the security guards to hold me down and keep me under his feet. Big brother, you bastard. Why won't you follow the path I arranged for you? Do you know that today you nearly ruined Father's grand plan? Even if I beat you to death, it would be too lenient. I looked at the arrogant fake young master before me. A cold glint flashed across my eyes, but it was quickly concealed. I seemed to understand Mother's scheme. I must cooperate well. To bring about his downfall, one must first drive him mad. And my goal was to draw the fire of Lucas and his son. Isabella added another jab from the side. Ethan, do you regret it now? But it's already too late. Compared to Lucas, you're a loser. I sneered coldly. So what if I'm a loser? It's still better than being a pair of dogs who connive together, as you two did. At my words, Isabella slapped me twice and scolded. You don't understand anything. I'm just being practical. The wise adapt to the times. Our Williams family is riding Lucas's tailwind. We'll only soar higher. I spat in her face and replied, A sparrow is always a sparrow. Even perched on a branch, it won't turn into a phoenix. Isabella's expression changed. She wiped the spit from her face and stamped her high heel hard on my face. This scene was seen by Chairman David, who had just walked out of the company. His face was full of fury as he swept his gaze over me and Lucas, and he snorted coldly. Lucas quickly let go of me and followed. Isabella dared not stay and got into the nanny van, leaving quickly. I tidied my appearance and prepare to return to the Johnson family villa to get some clarity from my mom. Instead, I was ruthlessly sent back. Go find Sophia. She should be almost home now. I smiled broadly, called out a greeting, and left without looking back. Mom, furious, shouted after me, cursing under her breath. Got a daughter-in-law and forgot your mother. Not seen for months, Sophia had grown slender, and her face looked exhausted. For what I know of her, she definitely hasn't been eating properly and doesn't even have enough time to rest. As for asking what she went out to do, I ignored it and told her, wait, I'll go make you something to eat first. She was hospitalized for a month, and with nothing to do, I went to learn cooking from my mom. After learning, I felt I had mastered half of my mom's skills. All these dishes were made by you, they look good. I nodded proudly. Wife, sit down and try them first. These are the cuisines I learned from Mom after a month of practice. Sophia froze for a moment, then looked up at me, her eyes full of an inexplicable affection. She then followed what I said and tasted the dishes one by one, but her expression changed several times. Like I'd eaten and felt sick. Is the dish wrong? I quickly grabbed the chopsticks and tried it. Damn, it's salty. I quickly grabbed Sophia's hand and, feeling guilty, said, Honey, I'm sorry. I might have mistaken the sugar for salt. Her gaze softened. She pried my hand away and said something that shocked me. I think it's pretty good. You should pick up your chopsticks and eat too. I picked up my chopsticks, but they hovered without coming down for a long time. She suddenly lifted her head, her cool gaze fixed on me. I didn't care whether the food was salty. I just ate in big mouthfuls and drank water in large gulps. She grabbed a napkin and wiped the bits of rice from the corner of my mouth. Eat more slowly. I'm full. No one's going to snatch it from you. The whole table of food is yours. I put on a miserable muggle face. Just as I was about to put down my chopsticks, I heard her shout angrily. Eat. Sophia returned the next day. The Johnson Group's Earthworm Logistics System project was exposed online, and Johnson Group's stock surged. Chairman David held celebratory meetings for 3 consecutive days, and many shareholders increased their investments. Lucas even arrogantly demanded that I buy shares and urged me to persuade my mother to increase her investment, and he promised. Ethan, don't say I didn't give you a chance. Once this opportunity is gone, it's gone for good. I shook my head. Thanks for the thought, little brother, but I still have some savings, so I won't be joining your project. Isabella was a little surprised, stared at me intently for a moment, and didn't say much. 3 days later, Chairman David used an overseas inspection as an excuse and didn't return for several days. Even Lucas was nowhere to be seen. The whole company had become a complete mess. There was no one managing affairs, and it was on the verge of grinding to a halt. I had already withdrawn, and the company's stock price was plummeting like a roller coaster. 3 more days passed, and the shareholders could no longer sit on their hands. They went to my mother, hoping she could take the helm again. But what Lucas and his son had done was so severe that they had nearly swept away all the company's liquid funds. They had also cashed out shares at high prices. You could say Johnson Group had become a hot potato, and investors would soon come calling. But they underestimated Mom's determination, just as I thought. Those shareholders cashed out at low prices, while secretly being slowly bought up by someone. Those who remained were Mom's loyal supporters. They were willing to believe Mom. Lucas, however, returned at this moment. When Dad and Lucas fled abroad, they were caught by the police. Dad confessed to all the crimes, which allowed Lucas to escape unscathed. He came to me and Mom, knelt on the floor, begging us to save him. After all, he was the person in charge of the project, and those old men at the company piled all the blame onto him. Lucas forced a smile, and all he got was a letter of abandonment. It was Dad's fault too. He hadn't revealed Lucas's status as an illegitimate child, so Mom quickly completed the abandonment papers. Lucas became a pariah. Everyone wanted him punished, and the Williams family hated him to the core. The Williams family tried to get into the Johnson circle, putting all their assets into this project, but it all went down the drain. Jacob had people break his limbs. He crawled on the floor to find Isabella, hoping she could save him. What he got was a miscarriage operation for him. Lucas, you disappoint me so much. I trusted you too much. And not only did you ruin me, you ruined the Williams family as well. Instead of living like this, you'd be better off just going and dying. Lucas had nowhere to go. Drunk, he was struck by a truck and thrown, dying instantly. The Williams family went bankrupt. The Williams relatives all retreated back to their hometown, and Isabella was even driven out of the Williams household. She knelt at the gate of the villa begging me, hoping we could get back together. But I already had Sophia. How could I possibly fall in love with a twice-married woman? I had the security guards throw her out the gate on the spot. She had nowhere to vent her rage, and in the end she went after Lucas and ran him over, killing him. After going through bankruptcy restructuring, Johnson Group returned to Mom's hands. She didn't give the company to me. She gave it to Sophia. The other party brought a heavyweight project, an unmanned aerial vehicle logistics system project. Johnson Group set sail again, and I became her secretary.